Hello and welcome to Le Mans for the season finale of Lotus Cup Europe. This weekend's races will be supporting the 24-hour Camion, the largest truck racing event in Europe. Before we get underway, let's have a quick chat with the drivers to see what they expect of their final races in 2015 and a look at the championship standings after the last round at Zolder.
We've had some good races. The car's been very reliable. We got through a bit of a rough start at Hockenheim, but from that point on, the car's been great and my driving's slightly improved.
It's my second season in Lotus Cup Europe and it's improving all the time. We started at the back of the grid last year, but since then we've done quite a lot of work on the car. We have an excellent race engineer in Patrick Boulogny. Things have been improving all season. Our hopes for the weekend are to confirm all our work throughout the season and that the ambience stays good, as always, in Lotus Cup Europe.
So in terms of the championship there, well, John Rass comes to Le Mans clear in the points, clear of Lourenco and Zondra, but there are plenty of points on the table, particularly with double points in race 3, so the title is far from decided.
Congratulations on getting pole position and by half a second as well, which is quite a large margin. Are you feeling confident about the race?
I'm very confident for the race and thank you for the congratulations. It hadn't happened for a while. It's my first pole of the season, so I'm going to make the most of it and I'm very confident.
Congratulations on getting class pole. Must be very useful considering you're leading the championship. What are your hopes for the weekend?
Thank you. Yes, it is useful, of course. It's a good thing to be in pole position, and the main thing to do is to avoid making mistake for the race, and it should be okay.
The cars are assembling ahead of the first race of the weekend. Xavier Georges is hoping to make the most of pole position, whilst in production, John Rass is hoping to keep his perfect run of victories intact. Now let's watch the action.
So let's have a look then at the grid for this first of 3 races. It's Xavier Georges in pole position, alongside him Jeremy Lourenco, then Gregory Rass and John Walker on row 2, clear of Philippe Loup and John Packer. Benoit Roger in 12th on the 6th row, just behind Christophe Lezondre, and then it's going to be Chris Laroche who starts this first race of the weekend. As ever, John Rass right to the fore of production in 25th place, but there are a huge entry for this weekend. It is Charlotte Burridge who also takes the start of race 1, which is a rolling start as the 37 cars get ready for the off, and away we go. First of 3 times at Le Mans, and already it's a brilliant getaway from Jeremy Lourenco, who gets to the inside of Xavier Georges as they head into the Dunlop curve and then up to the Dunlop chicane. Also getting his elbows out a little bit is Gregory Rass, and he pushes his way past John Walker as the field filter through the chicane, more or less in one piece, and then go up over the crest of the hill and down into La Chapelle. This is when they turn away from the Le Mans 24-hour circuit and on to the Le Mans Bugatti circuit, which has been home to the French Motorcycle Grand Prix for several years. Also hosted Formula 1 back in 1967, albeit in what was regarded as the worst Grand Prix of the 1960s. There's a big moment then from Nicholas Walker as he had a huge slide, and also in trouble is John Packer. Somebody taking evasive action, but Packer absolutely static in the middle of the track, and I rather fear that that may be that for Packer. Not quite sure what caused it, but it's a slightly odd place to have come to halt just on the exit of La Chapelle. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, the leading quartet breaking well clear as Thierry Verhees, just running a little bit wide in the Evora as the pack all streaming through. And there is John Packer's car being somewhat sadly pushed away by the marshals. It's a real pity because Packer often flies in the 211. Now here are the 2 race leaders, the Lotus Exige V6 Capars of teammates and good friends, Jeremy Lourenco and Xavier Georges, and as has so often been the case this year, Jeremy Lourenco is leading the way. There is Lourenco as he picks his way towards the end of another lap, just into the sequence Corbomont at the end of the Le Mans Bugatti circuit, and already you can see they're getting in amongst some of the production class cars because this is one of the shorter layouts of the season. And there is John Rass, our production leader, He's got the advantage over Marcus Nikovic and Thierry Edouard, as has been frequently the case in 2015. Ras mixing it with some of the open class cars up ahead of him, and that is Matt Bartlett, who is trying to find a way past Phil Capstick, and John Ras, who's got such good corner speed but then loses out a little bit to the open class cars on the straight. So there you see the leading trio in production. There's Nikovic, the white car, then Thierry Edouard in the black machine. The field accelerating past the mass ranks of the grandstand here at Le Mans, overlooking the legendary pits. And there is our race leader, Jeremy Lourenco, and Lourenco easing clear of Xavier Georges through the traffic, and Georges making slightly heavier weather of his attempts to cut through the production class runners. There's the battle for third place, as Gregory Ras has got Jonathan Walker just lined up behind him now. John Walker not maybe having quite the season that he would have hoped for, as Rob Woolridge goes a lap down to Xavier Georges. Georges not taking any risks. Having been jumped by Lourenco off the start, he's not really been able to stay with his compatriot. Lourenco just sliding the car a little bit, building up this comfortable buffer at the front of the field, and using no more of the road than he absolutely has to before sprinting on towards the Dunlop curve. There is Xavier Georges. Where's the gap? There's Ras, who is now snaking away from John Walker. You could see there Walker just sliding a little bit out towards the bollard, the exit of the curb. And certainly in and amongst some of the production cars. That was Sven Pettersson, who has been lapped by Ras. Ras picking his way up past James Knight as well, and then under the Dunlop Bridge and down into the very challenging La Chapelle hairpin. So the road really falls away, and the drivers will be very pleased that it's dry for this weekend here at Le Mans, because in the wet weather that corner is particularly treacherous. They then head over the crest of the hill onto towards the Virage du Musée, which is the long left-hand hairpin. Lovely shot there into the cockpit of Gregory Ras. He just takes that single progressive turn on the steering wheel, letting the car do all the hard work, and then it is the short sprint towards Garage Vert, which then feeds in to the longest straight really on the Le Mans Bugatti circuit. Walker just running out a little bit wide, in fact very wide from Walker. The same from Sven Pettersson, but it's all about setting up the exit speed as the road falls away. Then they've got this long straight into fairly quick S-bend sequence, and then the complex at the end of the lap. There's a battle between James Knight and Sven Pettersson, and that is for 23rd place. Pettersson doing what he can to try and close up to James Knight. That gap is reasonably comfortable at the moment. Sweeping through the S-Bleu. Blackbird's getting a fine view of the action as Philip van Pevenegger homes into view, and Philip in 25th place, trying to get up towards the tail of Sven Pettersson, but really seesawing at the wheel through the final complex. The car just momentarily looking like it was about to snap around on the Belgian, but he can see his target in front of him, accelerates through, and then the climb up into Dunlop curve, and that sadly is a retirement for Janos Santa, who pulls the side of the road, gloves off, driver out of the car. Here's our race leader, Jeremy Lourenco, who has been utterly dominant, and having got the jump on Xavier Georges early on with some supreme mastery of the traffic, she's coming round to, in some instances, for the second time. That's Rob Woolridge just ahead of him. Lourenco, he was very quick at his other home event of the year at Magny-Cours earlier in the season, and is repeating the trick once more as Yves Courreman negotiates the Garage Vert hairpin. See the gap between Lourenco and Xavier Georges. Xavier Georges, he's never really been comfortably clear of Gregory Ras, but at the same time, it's always been enough. Heading then into chicane for what's likely to be the final time for Jeremy Lorenko, and this has been one of his more comfortable victories for 2015. It's been a busy race with all the traffic that he's had to contend with. In terms of actual competition for the victory, he has been able to control it very nicely as he heads into the Recourmont section for the final time, negotiates the double right hand without any concern, accelerates out of the final turn, the checkered flag goes out, and Jeremy Lorenko wins the first of 3 races for Lotus Cup Europe at Le Mans this weekend. Second place going the way of Xavier Georges, and completing the podium is Gregory Rass with a little bit sideways 4th place, and John Walker with, of course, our production winner, John Rass. So look then at the final classification. So the win for Lorenko from Xavier Georges, Gregory Rass and John Walker. Philippe Luc well up in 5th place, just clear Steve Williams, Christophe Lezondre, the top 211. John Rass, production winner, 19th overall, getting the better of Phil Capstick from their race-long battle. Second of the production runners was Marcus Mikovic from Thierry Edouard, and James Knight did hold off Sven Pettersson and Philip van Pevenegger. Fortunately, we lost on the way Janos Santa, Nick Walker, and of course John Packer, that very early retirement. So what he hopes will be the first of 3 times this weekend, Jeremy Lorenko to the top step of the legendary Le Mans rostrum.
Congratulations, Jeremy, for winning at Le Mans.
Yeah.
Must feel great to win at such an historic circuit. How's it feel?
I'm very happy. It was a great race. I had a good start, even though I wasn't on pole. Xavier also had a good start, even though he made some mistakes. It was brilliant. It was great. It was really good. It was really cool.
Congratulations on finishing on the podium at Le Mans. How was your race?
It was difficult. I couldn't make the most of my pole position, which is a shame. But my teammate won. We were first and second, but there are 2 races tomorrow, and you haven't heard the last of me yet. I'm not going to waste my pole position in the 2nd and 3rd races. We're going to fight. I'm confident.
Congratulations on finishing on the podium. How did you find it out there today?
I lost time at the start as I was stuck behind Xavier, who made some mistakes. After that, I struggled to catch them up. We'll try to make some changes to the car tomorrow to make it better.
There's still lots more to come from Lotus Cup Europe, so please join us after the break. Welcome back to Lotus Cup Europe here at Le Mans. I'm here with Leslie Revoix from Motul, a lubricant company, one of the main sponsors of the championship. Could you tell us a little bit about Motul's involvement with Lotus Cup Europe?
Yes, sure. Motul is really glad to be part of this adventure. For us, the Lotus Cup Europe really represents the values that in which Motul believes. The Lotus Cup Europe is all about brotherhood attitude, it's all about passion, technical skills, authenticity, and for us it's really important to be part of this championship.
It's about time for the penultimate race of the season, and with the championship still undecided, this race is bound to be full of tension. Let's go and join the thousands of fans to watch the action.
Well, it's the same grid as race 1, but this time round it is a standing start as the field are all poised and ready. We get the green flag now from the marshal at the rear of the field, so eyes towards the gantry, waiting for the red lights to come on, which they do now in sequence as per form. Well, out they flash, and it's a poor start from Jeremy Lorenko. It's a wild start for Nick Walker, who slews sideways, very nearly takes a couple of rivals with him. The upshot of all of that is that Xavier Georges converting pole position, and Lorenko busy defending from John Walker as they head into the Dunlop curve for the first time. Lorenko easing out Walker, in fact looking to the inside Xavier Georges on the brakes there. Jeremy Lorenko, and he squeezes through and takes the lead the race away from John Walker. Xavier Georges rather. John Walker looking to also find a way past Georges as they head downhill into La Chapelle, and it's Georges who's got the inside line. Walker pushed the outside. John Packer well up in 4th place, and he has got the jump on Gregory Rass, who clearly had not such a good start. I think some of them were caught out by the fact that the pause on the red light can be measured in microseconds, and those that anticipated the start best have really benefited, but Lourenco, exactly as it was in race 1, is out front. Here's another look at the start then. Just look back to the 4th row. Nicholas Walker going around Philippe Loop, and the car slewing sideways, and he very nearly took Anthony Fournier with him for company. That was very, very close. Now, what about the battle for 3rd and 4th? Well, it's John Walker just clear of Gregory Rass, who has eased past John Packer, so we are much as we were in race 1, except that Rass is behind Walker, and Walker again left looking for an answer really as to how he can try and get up to the race leaders. Walker heading out of the Bleu S section and into Recordmont to complete the lap. He's got Gregory Rass snapping right at his heels. There are the 2 leaders up the road in front of them, and there is John Packer, the preeminent of the 211s, just behind in 5th place, really bouncing back from the disappointment of the first race. Climbing through the Dunlop bend, you can see the massive expanse of gravel trap, which gives a sense of just how quickly they approach Dunlop bend. I think it was Alex Hoffman who crashed a Kawasaki in the MotoGP qualifying session at well over 200 miles an hour at that section of circuit a few years ago. As now Rass looks to the inside of John Walker through La Chapelle. Can't quite pick his way through to the inside because the hairpins here at the Le Mans Bugatti circuit are really quite long radius corners, and therefore they do favour the wide entry, but Walker stays out very, very wide. The car washes out and understeers, and that is a very easy pass for Gregory Rass. John Walker will look to fight back almost immediately as he looks to dart to the inside into Garage Vert. And again, he's very deep on the brakes, but understeers out wide, and Rass able to take advantage of the switchback. And of course, as the pair of them battle, it's going to bring John Packer into the mix. It's also going to allow Jeremy Lourenco and Xavier Georges at the very front of the field to break away on the brakes into first of the S-bend sequences. Can overtake there, but only if you're right alongside for then heading into the S Bleu section at the closing stages of the lap. Come out of the S Bleu and in towards Raccormont. Here's another look then at John Walker, so deep on the brakes. Gregory Rass knows he's left it too late, gives him the room to run wide and ducks back to the inside line, and that fairly straightforward really for Rass. John Packer in 5th, doing all he can to stay with the fight for 3rd, maybe doing a little bit more than that as he brakes very, very deeply, locks up the brake into the Dunlop chicane, but that's what he needs to do in the 211 to really get that car punching a little bit above its weight. Let's come downhill into La Chapelle. Swing around the right-hander into left-hand heavy. Now there, at the front of the picture, is the battle for the lead of the production class, John Rass, unable to take to the start of this race. Making sure that all is well for him. The double points race later on, and that means we've got some different names at the front of the production class. It's Thierry Edouard pursues Sven Pettersson. That is for 4th and 5th in the class. Here's the fight for lead, headed by James Knight, and they've got then Jason McAnulty, Markus Nikovic as part of that group as well. Knight accelerating to the end of the lap. Also got Phil Capstick just up ahead of them in one of the open class cars. Nikovic though has got the run on McAnulty this time around. He bursts out of the bubble. He's going to look to the outside at the Dunlop curve, and he might well make it stick. That's a great move from Nikovic if it pulls off, but he seems to just wash out and can't hold that traction to then take the inside line for the Dunlop chicane. Jason McAnulty, by sticking to the core racing line, able to rebuff the efforts from Nikovic despite the slingshot in the slipstream that Nikovic benefited from. Down into La Chapelle, James Knight just sliding a little bit. And they all put a couple of wheels out over the curve for the short sprint on to the Virage du Musée. As McAnulty looks to the inside of James Knight. We follow Markus Nikovic. Now we swing back across, and Knight has slithered out a little bit wide. and McAnulty draws alongside James Knight. The pair of them are heading in towards Garage Vert now. It's the sky blue car of Knight to the inside of the dark and purple car of McAnulty, who brakes far too deeply and understeers out wide. He's going to lose second place in the production class as well to Marcus Nikovic, but McAnulty might just have enough momentum to cover the track position as they head into the S-Bends. That is how it unfolds. McAnulty might just pique the interest of race control for that, as there is Steve Williams and Nicholas Walker. They are busy battling over 6th position. And fairly shortly as well, they're going to be getting in and amongst a little bit of the traffic, if not, in fact, they're already there with some of the production runners, and that is when the battles at the front of the field can really start to turn on their head. That turn, it's Williams who just runs a little bit wide into La Chapelle, but then cuts it back quite tightly. That means he can carry a little bit more acceleration out of the hairpin into the left-hander at the Virage du Musée. Good battle also going on amongst the 211s, Jean-Pierre Genou-Prachet and Christophe Lezondre in pursuit of Jean-Baptiste Loup. Jean-Baptiste Loup, who is currently second in the 211 class behind John Packer. There is the red and black car of Lezondre in pursuit of the fluorescent green entry of Genou-Prachet. Genou-Prachet a little bit wide into Garage Vert on that occasion. Again, looks to pick up the throttle. They've got the Lapri of Rob Woolridge to contend with as well. For Nick Walker, it's Philip van Pevenegger, who is just in front of him. You can really get the sense of the pace of the Exige V6 Cafars, and also the Evora, as Steve Williams tries to benefit and looks to close up on to the tail of Nick Walker. They've got another slower car, that's Yves Couraman, to just pick away past into Raccormont, and again no delay at all for Walker and Williams. They both ease through, accelerate on their way. We've also got Thierry Verheest closing up on to their tail through the Dunlop curve. Williams looking to carry the momentum. The Evora, once it gets ahead of steam underneath it, is a pretty hard car to slow down. So they flick through the chicane. Oh, a little bit sideways there. Oh, and a problem for Marcus Nikovic and James Knight. They've had some sort of coming together. Also going around is Phil Capstick, and that is very good news for Jason McAnulty, because he is elevated to an unassailable production class lead, as here is our race winner, Jeremy Lorenko. We've not seen much of him, but he has romped off into the distance once more and accelerates out of the final turn. The checker flag goes out, and Lorenko makes it 2 from 2 in the opening brace of races at Le Mans. Second place once more goes the way of Xavier Georges, and then for perfect podium symmetry, it is Gregory Rass who finishes in third. A look then at the final results, with victory once more for Lorenko, clear of Xavier Georges and Gregory Rass. John Packer was our top 211 in 7th. Plenty of battling going on throughout the field. Christophe Lezondre clear of Jean-Pierre Genou-Prachet, and David Harvey well up in 14th place. And then Jason McAnulty, our top production runner, he was classified in 23rd, just clear of Sven Pettersson and Mackenzie Taylor, who make up the production podium. James Knight and Marcus Nikovic, disappointment for them. They'll be classified 31st and 32nd after their late tangle. So another trip to the top step of the podium for Jeremy Lorenko.
Congratulations on your second win of the weekend. Was it hard work out there?
Oui. Oui, c'était
Yes, it was a difficult race. I've lost my voice, but it was still a good race, because after a hard start, everyone got going. Well, not everyone, but obviously I did, but some struggled more than I did. We ended up at the same place. I braked well and overtook him, so it all went well. It was great.
Congratulations on another podium. The start looked rather frantic from trackside. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Quoi dire? Dire que je pars en tête et que je vire deux.
Well, what to say? I started at the front and lost 2 places by the first chicane. Jeremy was putting me under a lot of pressure, but it was clean racing. I messed up my start. Greg was very, very far behind me, so I wasn't too worried. Everything went okay. I was a bit disappointed today, but I'm happy to share the podium with my friends. But I would have preferred if Jeremy had been second.
Et j'aurais préféré que Jérémy fasse deux. Voilà.
Congratulations on another podium. What did you think about the start?
Donc, comme je disais, j'ai été
I got stuck behind Jeremy and Xavier, who were very slow away after a really bad start. I had a really bad start, probably the worst. I'm not fast enough to catch up, so I was behind them, far behind them. And I'll try to maybe do better in the next race.
We've certainly had a lot of action so far. Please join us after the break for more from Lotus Cup Europe. Welcome back to Lotus Cup Europe from Le Mans. You join me here surrounded by the field of this year's championship. It's great to have such a diverse grid with competitors coming from all over Europe to compete. Now let's see what the rest of the weekend has in store. Jean-Baptiste and Christophe, we're heading into the last race of the season with you two at the top of the 211 championship standings, separated by just a handful of points. Who do you think is going to win the title?
Personally, I really don't know. We'll see how the race goes, as I'm starting from the back of the grid. I hope the start of the race will go well. I hope I'll be able to catch Christophe fast enough, because I think he'll quickly get into a good rhythm, in which case I won't be able to catch him up. It's more or less the same for me. It's a race that ends a good season, during which we've had a lot of fun. Each of us have had moments where we've been quicker than the other. But no matter what happens, I think Jean-Baptiste or I deserve class victory. But we'll see. The race will decide.
After 14 races at 7 different circuits, it all comes down to this. Jeremy Lourenco against John Ras for the Lotus Cup Europe title, and Jean-Baptiste Lou and Christophe Lizan for the 211 championship title. The final chapter is about to get underway.
So this, the final race of the season, it is the double points race. And, well, will Jeremy Lourenco make it the clean sweep this weekend here at Le Mans? A rolling start once more, and away we go. And it's a great start from Gregory Ras from third on the grid, and Lourenco not quite as quick in anticipating the light changing on that occasion. Philippe Loup also looking to make a good start, but Ras challenging Lourenco as they head through the Dunlop curve, also surging through. That's Nicholas Walker, who very nearly had a huge moment. He eventually gets the car stopped for the chicane, but it's Lourenco who leads the way through the opening couple of turns. But now it's Gregory Ras and then Walker behind him, Xavier Georges from pole position down into fourth place. So they swoop through La Chapelle, climb up over the slight crest in the road and on towards the Virage du Musée. Lourenco moving across to cover the line reasonably late in the turn. He doesn't really quite make the apex there at all, actually, as then Ras looks to challenge. The rest of the field all pick their way through on towards Garage Vert. And again, Lourenco quite late on the turning. Can he cut it across the apex this time? Yes, he does. And this is part of the 24 Hours of Le Mans for Truck meeting, with attracting some 54,000 spectators. What that means is that over the course of the weekend, with the big trucks out on track, there is going to be quite a lot of rubbering in on the track, and a very distinct racing line forming. But now, good battle at the front of the field. Gregory Ras coming towards Jeremy Lourenco, and this is possibly the first time all weekend that Lourenco has reasonably been challenged at the front of the field. Heads into Raccourmont, swoops through, gets the power down on acceleration on the way out. Gregory Ras a little bit smoother, and now we've got Xavier Georges being challenged by Philippe Loup, and Loup to the inside. Also got John Walker looking to pick his way through. All these Exige V6 Capars fighting at the front of the field. Thierry Verheest in the Evora looking to join in as well. come over the crest of the road, down into La Chapelle. Walker looks to the outside of Xavier Georges. Georges sticks to the racing line. He's not going to make this easy for John Walker. It's Nick Walker just up ahead of them. Then Georges moves across, covers the inside line again for the Virage du Musée. And this is a good scrap for these places in the top 5. All the while, though, of course, as they fight, the leading gaggle will be breaking clear as Xavier Georges outbreaks himself into Garage Vert. And we've seen this time and time again through the course of the weekend, that the driver's really struggling to find the right braking point for some of these hairpins. And that opens up the opportunity, as now here is the race leader. Jeremy Lorenko under real pressure now from Gregory Rass. Heading into the Bleu S-bend. Lorenko from Rass. And then they home back into view, heading on towards Raccormont. Lorenko anticipating the corner a little bit too early then. Oh, and he runs wide, and that's going to give Gregory Rass the opportunity to get through. And that was fascinating, because Lorenko just seems to miss the braking point altogether whilst trying to turn in the car, understeering out wide. Here's another look at it. He's looking across, he's turning, and the car's just not slowing, or indeed turning. And as a result, he washes out wide, across the gravel. There's a little bit of a bump. Fortunately, the car doesn't actually kick around on him. It does cost him the lead of the race to Gregory Rass. And of course, this is potentially very significant, being the double points race for the end of the season. All the while, in the production class, John Rass is to the fore, so the points that Lorenko would have taken off Rass in the preceding race, now John Rass will be reclaiming in this one. Thierry Verheest and Xavier Georges do battle. They've got Philippe Loup tucked up just by them. Here is another look how that all started. Philippe Loup across the gravel trap. I think that cameraman at that final corner is clearly on the day off from Cinema Art School, because every shot is the super slow-mo close-up, as now we have got the challenge from Xavier Georges to Thierry Verheest. Verheest in the Evora, though, just slithers out wide, but again, it doesn't open the door for Xavier Georges. This is the corner that's been catching them out, though, into Garage Vert, because it's just that slight downhill braking zone for double apex, and this time it's Verheest who just understeers it, almost opens up the opportunity for Xavier Georges. Georges can't take advantage. Philippe Loup all the while runs out very wide, in fact over the AstroTurf, as they head into the S-bend. Oh, Verheest gets it a little bit wrong. You just saw he put a wheel on the curb and it unsettled the car. Had to seesaw, he holds the place. And Xavier Georges again not quite close enough to be able to take advantage. Georges then looks to the high line at the Bleu S. Nothing doing there, so they come out of that sequence into Raccormont to conclude the lap. He's just looking at the driver's body language in the car, seems to be struggling a little bit with understeer, really having to hustle that Evora possibly a little bit more than he would like to be doing. They come across the line, complete another lap all the while at the front of the field. It's Gregory Rass from Jeremy Lorenko. And Xavier Georges closes up on to Verheest again through the Dunlop S-bend. Ahead of them you can see this battle between Nick and John Walker. Nick Walker at car 6, John Walker car 7, and he's got the fluorescent yellow wing mirrors, which is the easy distinguishing mark. It was such an electrifying start from Nick Walker, but now he concedes the place to John Walker, who ducks to the inside into the Virage du Musée. Gets the power down a little bit early. Tail of the car just slides, but he's able to carry that momentum through to Garage Vert. Now this is the critical corner. If you can get a good exit here, John Walker, then he might well be able to just build that little bit of a buffer over Nick Walker. But Nick slightly tighter to the apex, but John Walker carrying the momentum and therefore secures that third place. They run over the crest in the road and on towards the S-bend. What about the fight behind? Well, still Xavier Georges trying to pick his way past Thierry Verheest, but you can see as they battle that Steve Williams in another of the Evoras is looking to join in the party, as That cameraman does have a zoom function as John Walker pulls clear of Nick Walker through the S-bend into Raccormo to the end of the lap. They just wonder if they've all gone the wrong way with tyre pressures for this race, because everybody at the front of the field really seems to be struggling with understeer, and I just wonder if that's the track conditions changing with the big trucks out on track and practicing between races, because they all seem to just be suffering a little bit with it in these relatively early stages of the final race of the Lotus Cup Europe season. The championship still on the line. John Ras does need to bring it home, and in a good points position just to make sure that Jeremy Lorenko can't pip him at the post. Problems for Rob Woolridge. That's a quick spin into La Chapelle. He rejoins, just clear of the Verheest and Georges battle. Moves to the side of the road. I don't think he's going to seek to delay the quicker cars in the V6 Cup class. Indeed, he doesn't, so they all scythe through. Ooh, Philippe Luke very nearly gets caught out. I think he carried in a little bit more corner speed in the anticipation that Rob Woolridge would have the same pace. What that means, though, is Philippe Luke now drops back from this battle between Verheest and Xavier Georges. Here's our race leader then, Gregory Ras, and Ras looking to break away from Jeremy Lorenko. Turns into the S-bend. Where is Lorenko? He's clearly not quite close enough to be in the same camera shot. There is just a glimpse of him in the background, but he's probably 4.5 seconds back, something of that magnitude, as Ras accelerates through, completes the lap, and this is looking like a very strong way to finish the season for Gregory Ras as he accelerates in towards the Dunlop curve. Jeremy Lorenko in second place. John Walker is up to third. We're going to take a short break from the Mont. Join us in a couple of moments' time for the conclusion of the Lotus Cup Europe season. Welcome back to Le Mans and the second half of this final race of the season in the Lotus Cup Europe. We are currently watching the battle between Thierry Verheest and Xavier Georges. Out front, Gregory Ras leads the way from Jeremy Lorenko and John, and then Nick Walker. You can see Nick just picking his way through a little bit of traffic. Xavier Georges has been buckled up behind Thierry Verheest for several laps now, but he's not yet been able to find a way past the Belgian driver. He's not going to be able to do so into Raccormo on this occasion either. He's hung out to the outside line. Verheest negotiates the double apex right-hander. Can see the Exige V6 Cup R of Nick Walker up the road ahead of them as they sprint past Philip van Pevenegger to put the lap onto him, and then climb up through the Dunlop curve on the brakes into the Dunlop S-bend. Trying for the switchback there is Xavier Georges. He might get it, in fact, as they go over the crest into La Chapelle. Yvor has just got the legs, hasn't it, in the straight line, but Verheest runs wide. Xavier Georges looks to challenge, but Verheest able to carry the speed out of the turn and therefore withstands the pressure from Xavier Georges. But headlights ablaze now. Georges knows that he needs to get the wiggle on if he really wants to get himself onto the podium for the third time this weekend. And this race, of course, doubly important because they are having double points for this final race of the season being awarded. Therefore, every position is absolutely critical. It's a little bit of a slide from Xavier Georges. He tries to apply the pressure coming out of the garage there. To draw alongside the Evora heading towards the S-bend, but again Thierry Verheest has got the track position and there is not a way through for an increasingly frustrated Xavier Georges. This has been an enthralling battle which is entertaining a very large crowd assembled here to enjoy the 24-hour truck race, as still Gregory Ras leads the way, and his lead over Jeremy Lorenko now is increasingly comfortable. Against expectation, Lorenko's not been able to find a way through, unlike Xavier Georges, who has been able to pick his way past Thierry Verheest and is now immediately onto terms with Nick Walker. Now that George has found a way past the Evora, he's very, very quickly caught up to Walker, who I expect is nursing some rather second-hand tyres after the exuberance with which he started the race. Xavier Georges looks to the inside, can't quite find the hole, instead he tries just to force Walker to outbrake himself, possibly run wide. That doesn't happen either, as we then arrive into the S Bleu and on towards Bracourmont. Xavier Georges applying all the pressure in all the right places to Nick Walker, but it's not quite paid off for him yet on this lap. But Walker runs incredibly wide into Bracourmont across the gravel trap. He's going to rejoin, but he loses the place. He scatters the gravel in all directions. And a very similar moment to the one that cost Jeremy Lorenko the lead of the race a little bit earlier on. Coming through Dunlop Curve then, Xavier Georges up into 4th place. His next target is John Walker, but John Walker's some way ahead of him. Let's have another look at it. On the brakes, Nicholas Walker, the car slows, but not by anything like nearly enough, and just understeers wide across through the gravel trap. The stones being kicked up in all directions, and then rejoins, but by then he's already lost the position. And just in front of them there, you caught a glimpse of John Rass, and John Rass well clear in the production class battle, and that is potentially very significant for him in terms of the overall destiny of the Lotus Cup Europe Championship for 2015. Another performance that is very noteworthy is that of Jean-Baptiste Loup. He's come up from the very back of the grid. He is up in 7th place overall, and more importantly, he's the top 211, and that means that he is going to be sealing the 211 championship, provided that things stay as they are for the next few laps. Gregory Rass accelerating his way out of the final turn, and that is to take the checkered flag. So Rass takes the win, 2nd place to Jeremy Lorenko, and the pair of them building up a very healthy buffer over John Walker. Walker concluding the podium now with 3rd position, a very lively way to end the season. Let's have a look then at those final results. Gregory Rass wins it from Jeremy Lorenko and John Walker. Jean-Baptiste Loup did hold on to 7th place, so he claims the 211 championship. Walker eventually fading down to 15th place as the race unfolded. That car going away from him. Well, John Rass, 21st place, top production class runner, and that was enough to give him the overall Lotus Cup Europe Championship. Just one or two of them falling by the wayside. Nonetheless, a fantastic race to bring the season to an end, and a final opportunity for the drivers to really let rip with the bubbly on the legendary Le Mans rostrum.
So it must be great to finish the season with a victory.
I'm shocked because I had a really good start, and I was surprised to be able to keep up with the rhythm and attack Jeremy. We were taking different lines, and I managed to put pressure on him. He made the mistake I needed, and I got in front, and I won the last race of the season. It's great.
So 3 podiums this weekend, 2 victories and a 2nd, and the V6 champion. How do you feel?
I'm very proud. It's brilliant. I'm really very happy. A great season that didn't start well at Hockenheim, but we found the right setup thanks to my good friend Chris, who looks after my car. I'm very, very happy to have won after having won 211 last year. It's good. I'm proud. It's really cool. Great organisation. Well done to everyone. Well done, John. I'm really very happy.
Must be good to end the season with a podium.
Absolutely. I tell you what, that's the hardest podium I've ever worked for. So 3 days of just whittling away a little bit at a time, and I'm just relieved that I actually did make it up here by the end of the weekend.
Let's take a look then at the end of season championship standings. It's Jeremy Lorenko who claimed the V6 Cup title from Gregory Rass, John Walker and Xavier Georges. The 211's Jean-Baptiste Loup, that heroic drive in the final race, was enough to pip Christophe Lezondre and John Packer. The open class, Nicolas Ferrer claiming it from David Harvey and Max Alves. John Rass, a comfortable production champion ahead of Jason McAnulty and Thierry Edouard, and that means that in the overall championship, John Rass is champion for 2015 ahead of Lourenco and Jean-Baptiste Loup.
Congratulations on being the Lotus Cup Europe Open Class champion. Must be the highlight of your racing career.
Of course, it's the realisation of a year's work. I'd like to congratulate my team for the amazing work they've done. We've had some difficult moments this season. It was very hard to win this trophy, so I'm very, very happy to have won in the open class this season.
Congratulations on being the 211 champion after a difficult weekend. You must be ecstatic.
Yeah, I'm really tired, but it's unbelievable. I'm champion and I'm so happy, just so happy.
Voilà, John, on est ainsi le destinataire du rage et qui va recevoir également peut-être un trophée supplémentaire.
Congratulations on being the Lotus Cup Europe 2015 champion. It must be one of your proudest achievements.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm champion now. It's done. Yeah, we can say that. It was not the most interesting race. I took a very good start at the beginning of the race, and then I was alone. So I did my best to keep the concentration, and I was looking on the mirror to see if the car from beyond were coming, but no.
We hope you've enjoyed all the action from Le Mans and from Lotus Cup Europe throughout the season. We're looking forward to next year, where the championship promises to be even more action-packed than this. From all of us at Lotus Cup Europe, it's goodbye.
So as we celebrate 2015 season, eyes already turned to 2016 and a fantastic calendar already in place, starting at Hockenheim and finishing here at Le Mans for the 24-hour truck race. It promises to be another wonderful year of Lotus Cup Europe racing.